Hello, and welcome to the Restore Yourself podcast. I am your host, Timothy Waterman. I'm a teacher of metaphysics. I am a transformational guide and a channel of universal divine wisdom. The purpose of this podcast is exactly what the title implies. Restoring the relationship with yourself is the core of essentially why I do this. It's what's helped me on my own journey thus far. I specialize in mentoring people who are on a path of spiritual awakening or conscious awakening, remembering who they truly are, that we are all one, that we are all connected in this life, we all come from the same place, the same energy. And I just help people come back to themselves on this journey because so many of us, I don't know if you can relate. I know for me, about 12 years ago, I was just sitting there asking the question, there's got to be more. There's got to be more to this life than just living this very routine life that I created at that point that just wasn't very fulfilling. Every day, what I was doing with my life in terms of like work and career just felt very empty, not very satisfying. I was very bored with it. And again, I just didn't get a lot of fulfillment from it. And I also had, I had a romantic partner at that time that I had been with for a long, long time. And that just didn't feel like it had been working well for a long time. And so I had all the things that society says, that we should have in quotation marks. And I just knew that there was something missing. And the big thing that was missing was the relationship with myself was pretty awful at that point. It was pretty awful. Didn't have self-esteem, didn't have self-worth. I had settled in basically every area of my life, which is why I was feeling so unfulfilled because I had settled in all these different areas. And, I felt that lack of fulfillment, that lack of connection to my authentic self and to the universe, to life as a whole. And so that's when I started asking the question, isn't there more? There's got to be more. And sure enough, those big questions led me to a whole new path in life and started to lead me to a lot of the answers that I had been seeking. And I did start life anew. Back when I started to ask those questions, I was a couple years shy of 30. When I was 30, I completely restarted my life, basically a whole new clean slate and learned a lot along the way because it's been almost 10 years since I restarted my life at 30. And just I've gained so many insights along the way and just about the human experience from my lens, from my particular experience, but just also about spiritual awakening because I kept leaning into the big questions in life and my curiosity about it all. And just more and more, the pieces came together, began to make sense. And then I was able just to start enjoying my life more because I was able to enjoy the relationship with myself more. And so this podcast is everything to do with that. So on this podcast, I share my own insights that I've learned along the way, the insights that I'm still currently remembering now, that I'm realizing now. And I do also bring on guests that share their perspective and their life experiences, all under the umbrella of restoring the relationship that we're having with ourselves so that we can live a life that feels better, feels more intentional, more meaningful, and of course, with the intention of it feeling more fulfilling as well. So thank you for stepping by this podcast. I'm really excited to have you here. Today, I am speaking with my friend Madison Miller, who is a sound and vocal alchemist, among other things. And today we're going to be talking a lot about, well, in the interview that you're going to hear, the pre-recorded interview that'll come after this introduction, you're going to hear our conversation that has so much to do with expressing your authentic self in the world, expressing your authentic voice in the world, just really realizing that that's what we're here for, is to discover our unique essence, to really get in touch with that, to allow that, to find permission to bring that outside of us and express it into the world, because that's where so much of the fulfillment comes from. If you ask me, it comes from taking who we know ourselves to be on the inside. Maybe it's that we're silly, maybe we're secretly a comedian, maybe we are an amazing singer, but we've had hesitation about sharing our voice. We've had doubts and insecurities about our voice. Maybe we're a great artist, a painter, a poet, a novelist, any of these number of things, but we've been holding it back because of the relationship that we're having with ourselves, the doubts, the insecurities, the believing that we're not special, whatever it may be. So if you relate to that in any way, if you just know there's been even one part of you that you're still holding back due to insecurities or fears or feeling like you're not good enough, I feel strongly that this conversation may benefit you. This conversation greatly benefited me. I've already listened back to it 2 or 3 times. And every time I listen to it, there's amazing nuggets that continue to stand out for me and speak to me where I am on my path at this time. And again, my path of awakening started about 12 years ago. That's when I started asking the big questions. And then life really began to change in a big way about 2 years later. It's just been a continuous journey since then. So I'm very excited to bring this conversation to you. I have just so much admiration for Madison, seeing what she's done with her presence in the world over the past almost 18 months now is when I met her, and I have nothing but lovely things to say about her. You'll find more of her information in the show notes, along with my information. Again, as I mentioned, I'm a transformational guide, a spiritual mentor, a teacher of metaphysics. And so I help people have what I feel to be profound breakthroughs in their lives around the topics that are most troubling to them at this time, the ones that they just can't figure out or feel confusing. I help lead people into their own inner clarity, into the truth within them, where they do know the answer, they do know the next step in their process. And that often helps them understand why these situations have unfolded in their life to begin with. So I love helping people create their own breakthroughs by getting in touch with their authentic self, their unique voice, their soul, their intuition, however you want to put it. I love helping people reach that place of clarity so that they can feel what's true for them. They can know what they really do want in life now and moving forward, and what the meaning of the situation that's in their life could actually be, why it's here, what it's wanting to tell them. I love helping people create clarity around all of those things. So when I say transformational guide, that's what I mean. And again, if you would like to find my information, it's in the show notes below as well. I always put my information, all of my links, beneath my guest information if I have a guest on any particular episode. And in this case, on this episode, I do have a guest. So my information will be below Madison's. So you can find all of my relevant links, including my website and email. So if you want to know what it looks like to do some of that transformational work with me, you can always send me an email, or you might find other links in the show notes that may be helpful if you just have some curiosity about who I am and what I bring to the world. So you'll find all of that in the show notes below. I do have a brief bio for Madison that she sent me prior to this interview, so I'm just going to look over to my left currently to read that to you. Should just take a few moments. Madison is a sound and vocal alchemist, ceremonialist, and medicine facilitator. She is deeply devoted to the path of healing and returning to the sacred ways of living by leveraging various modalities and mediums within the healing arts. Having said that, I again am so excited to bring this interview to you. Here we go. Yay, I'm so delighted to be here today with my dear friend, Madison Miller. I've known Madison for over a year now, a year and a few months. And just from the get-go, the first time I had contact, it was over a messaging app, and just right off the bat, just friendly, kind, generous, bright light, sunshine. And again, just even over text messages, having never met each other. And then meeting in person, it was just more of that, just bright light, just joyous, kind, present in the moment, connected. And it's been so cool that I've been able to stay connected with you since last year. And now we get to do this fun co-creation together. So again, welcome, Madison. I'm so happy to have you here on the podcast.
Oh, thank you so much. Such a sweet intro, and I'm deeply honored to be here and super grateful for our connection and our weaving together and continuous weaving together on this path.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, the journey just continues, and there's always more fun ways to play and create and co-create. And yeah, just as I sometimes think about podcast guests, it's like just who feels really good to talk to, and and have an empowering conversation with, and thing in terms of things like metaphysics or just the conscious journey. And yeah, there's definitely been several moments where like, ooh, like talking to Madison about these things feels really good. And yeah, and so just following my intuition on that one thing that's really fun about these interviews is that though I feel like I know someone pretty well, a lot of times I don't really know a lot of the backstory. And like the backstories, on this type of a journey, a conscious journey, can be really, fun to hear about. And so yeah, if you're open to it, maybe just sharing, because I know now I feel that you're in such a empowered place in your life. I definitely feel you as a very conscious co-creator with the universe, like very self-aware and just stepping into more of your power and more of your light and your expression. I feel that all to be true as I, just witness you and continue to witness you. And so yeah, just anything you might like to share just about whether it's just when this all kind of started for you, and maybe just any details you're open to sharing about what led you to in the space that you feel that you're in now.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for witnessing me and all of that. And yeah, it's been quite the journey. It's been quite the journey to get to this place. And I guess I'll start. Yeah, a few years ago, I got out of college and I started working like a normal sales job. I started working corporate sales, selling payroll, and just kind of doing what most people do. Like climbing up the corporate ladder and working a 9 to 5. And I was like the most unhealthy I've ever been during that time. I was not taking care of myself. It was just soul crushing. It was soul crushing. And I was making a solid paycheck. On paper, everything seemed to be really great in my life. But I was experiencing some of the deepest and darkest depression I've ever felt, feeling like, what is my purpose? And I've always resonated with being a very creative person. As a little girl, I was always singing and found my voice at a very young age, my singing voice at a very young age. My grandma, she was an amazing pianist and vocalist. And so I have such fond memories being with her and just singing, church music and just these really sweet moments that were, yeah, really empowering at the time, just as a little girl. But I got out of school and I worked this kind of like normal muggle job is what I like to call it. Feeling like that's what I needed to do in order to survive and support myself and be socially accepted in society and also within my family dynamic. Yet I was so unfulfilled. I was, again, so deeply experiencing this state of depression and anxiousness, and was, drinking a lot of alcohol and using substances to try to escape my life, really, which just led to deeper layers of depression. It was this cycle that was really, really toxic. And I was continuously giving my power away and and trying to fill those voids in relationships, looking to the masculine to fix me, to save me really from myself, which only led to more pain and suffering. So I got to a really, really low point, and I decided, yeah, it was time to make a major shift in my life. I could keep going at the rate I was going, and be deeply, deeply depressed and continue this really toxic cycle for myself, or I could make a change, even though that felt also really, really scary because there was risk in that. There was this, it was walking into the unknown. And I feel sometimes, a lot of the times, we're so deeply conditioned to go to comfort, we're hardwired to be in our comfort, even if that comfort is what's making us miserable, because it's all that we know. And so it was scary because to some degree I'd gotten very comfortable in those cycles, in my misery. So I decided, even though it felt really scary and I didn't know what my next step was, that I needed to make a big shift in my life. And stepping away from a relationship that wasn't serving me, this job that was providing me this, to some level, comfort and support, which was really an illusion. Stepping away from these things and deciding to really show up for myself and to choose myself, just really opened up my path, to my truth, and has led me to, what led me at the time was to really deepen my relationship with holistic health and living. During that time, my father was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and that was also a very, awakening time in my life of, okay, wow, this is a really big change. This is my dad, who I love so much, and I see he's suffering, and how do I help? How do I support him? So with all of these factors, it was really, really clear to me to go into the path of nutrition and holistic living, and to deepen my studies at that time, working with, actually, I worked with CBD for a long time, and kind of went into the cannabis world because I saw how much it was helping my dad with his condition. So I became a holistic health coach. I went back to school and got my master's in nutrition, and was working in the cannabis space for a few years, which was beautiful. And then the pandemic hit, and a lot of shifts happened during that time as well. And I was forced to again come back to myself, and was feeling a deeper calling, to another layer, if you will, of my spiritual healing, which led me to start working intentionally and consciously with different plant medicines other than cannabis. I feel like that was really a beautiful opening into like the mushroom world and some of these other really beautiful plant teachers, that really, I believe, found me the more I started intentionally and consciously working with these different elements myself. So once I started, saying yes to that calling, that opened up so much for me, and has continuously really brought me back into what I always knew as a child, which was the power of my voice and singing and sound, and the empowerment that comes within that. And it's been an interesting journey because I've fought it for a long time. I've fought my path of, oh, can I really do this? Is this really my path? Like, I'm going into these different modalities that are not necessarily what everyone is doing. And can I really support myself? Can I really show up in my full authentic expression doing these things and using my voice and utilizing these different modalities of healing, such as like sound healing and sound therapy and vocal alchemy, to not only feel good within myself, but how can I now utilize this gift to support the awakening of others that come into contact with myself. So that's a bit about my journey. Without going into every single detail, but I feel that those are some of the really pivotal moments in my life that have got me where I am today.
Gotcha. Well, thank you for sharing, with me and with anyone who listens to this at any point in the future. And one thing I just wanted to hone in on, and I'm sure this is not anything new for someone on a conscious path, but maybe it's just someone that's finding this by they're not quite, I mean, just it just pops up for them, and maybe they're newer to this type of a path. To me, it sounds, by listening to everything you shared, that you just had an internal knowing that there just had to be better, that you could that you could feel better in your life, and that you could enjoy your life more. And there was just something in you that was driving you, just like some kind of knowing. It was like, I know it can be better. And so you were just guided to take one step after another, just in the direction of, like you said, you got into the cannabis, and it sounds like you enjoyed that much more than previous roles. And then the health coaching and the masters in nutrition. So to me, what I was getting is that it sounds like you learned step by step how to start steering your life in the direction that really interested you, which to me it speaks to getting to know yourself that much better, like really listening to yourself, and following those steps, those actions. And to me, I do feel that also speaks to claiming your voice, because in order to do that, you have to start hearing your own voice and honoring what it's telling you. So yeah, how does that how does that reflection feel for you?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's spot on. I feel, it's interesting because it's like, in going into the deeper layers of myself, it's really just going into the deeper layers of what it really means to be human without all the noise. It's so much learning of the unlearning. It's really just like going back to the root of what it means to be human, like going back to these holistic ways of living, going back to the empowerment of our voice, which we all have a unique coding of expressionism within our voice that we're given. So these modalities, these ways of living, they're not they're not crazy things. They're really just like getting more in touch with what it really means to be human.
Yes, yeah, I agree very much. And another thing I wanted to circle back to a little bit, just because I find this to be so relevant, more than ever on my conscious path, but I feel like a lot of other people are realizing this too. You spoke to just the joys of your childhood, the singing and the expression. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but by the way you told the story, it sounded like you maybe shut that all down, for maybe it just didn't feel as important or relevant, as you were, again, just exposed to, I would just imagine, other people telling you how to live and what was important, things like that. And so would you be open to sharing with us what happened when you started to revisit those really pure, like golden, uh, joyous ways of being an expression that you love so much as as your child self. What happened when you started to allow yourself to go back and allow those to become a part of your life, at later stages of life? What happened for you on a feeling level? Uh, and if you want to, like, any shifts that created in your life, I'd be curious to hear what happened when you circled back and maybe saw those as being really important.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I definitely I shut down my voice for a very long time, and not just my singing voice, but in shutting down that channel, it really had such an impact on my speaking voice, the way that I showed up in my relations, the way I showed up pretty much in everything in my life, because it affected the way that I saw myself and my confidence and my self image. So it's really been, again, a journey of reclaiming that. And once I started to reclaim these parts of me, I everything started to shift in my life. It's like the way that I've shown up in my relationships, that I had chronic people pleasing, and I'm not doing that as much. It's still a journey. But I'm definitely holding my boundaries stronger. I'm just really loving myself in ways that I didn't know I was capable of, because I've allowed this channel to be free. And I actually had a very profound ceremony a few months ago, where I was sitting with kind of just this of like, why have I shut this down? Or it's so clear that I've been given this gift, and why do I still feel in ways that I can't express it, or I'm not worthy, or like whatever the story was. And what came to me was, I actually, for so long had not been fully comfortable and safe to be in my feminine expression, which was surprising to me, because in so many ways it's like, oh, I'm very feminine, like I feel very feminine, the way I express myself is very feminine, and like the way I dress and all of these things, which feel very feminine, come really easy to me. But when it came down to, it's like, okay, my feminine expression really is my creativity. And for so long, I mean, that was the narrative growing up, is like, you're not going to be able to support yourself in your creative expression. This is, you need to get real, you need to become a realist and do these things X, Y, and Z in order to survive, in order to be successful, which were not, related to my creative expression. So it created this narrative that almost this shame that if I do this, something bad is going to happen, or I'm not going to be able to support myself in this, or whatever it is. And the more I've explored that and have allowed myself to be in my creative expression, and to revisit the power of sound and voice and these different modalities, it's been completely freeing. And so much of that has to do also with the relationships in my life, of having really safe individuals in my life to be there to witness that, and to receive my medicine, and to still be there and love me and support me and lift me up. And I feel like that's how we really heal, is to have people in our lives, have other individuals in our lives that are there when we are opening up our most raw and vulnerable stories and expressions, and they're right there loving us through it.
Yeah, very very yeah, important. I agree. Just to consciously curate, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
who we surround ourselves with, and who we let into our our energetic field, if you will. Yeah, just being really conscious about that, I agree, is so important. So I'm glad to hear that that has been something that you've been increasingly conscious about. That's amazing. And yeah, just another thing that popped out for me as you were sharing was, isn't it? I mean, you can tell me, but I find it so interesting that because I have a lot of nieces and nephews that I get to watch be themselves, at family gatherings and stuff like that. And it's just it's so interesting how as a child, it just for most children, I'm not going to speak for every child, but for it seems like the children that I'm aware of, it's just like it's the most natural thing to express and share and create. Like I have nieces and nephews of all different ages, but like I have a 2-year-old nephew, and if he just wants to stand in the middle of like a room where everyone's there and just sing his heart out, like he just does that, like he doesn't ask anybody like, is this okay?
Totally.
You know, he just he just is like, I just have this song in my heart and I'm just gonna share. And of course, because most adults, if you will, are just kind of conditioned to look at children in a certain way. They're like, oh, that it's such a natural thing for children to do, and it's so cute that he's doing that. And oh, it brings me into my heart, that he's singing. And it's just like the most natural thing ever. And and just like the coloring, I know kids sometimes learn how, they love coloring, and then they kind of learn how to like, get some feedback. Do you think my drawing's good and stuff like that? Just that, kind of like approval stuff starts to work itself in there, a bit as, as children get older. But mostly what I see is like, do they want to color for the joy of it? They want to do a puzzle for the joy of it. They want to create images on the sidewalk or the pavement with chalk because it just seems so like juicy and invigorating and fun. And then it's like somehow through all this culturing, uh, all that stuff that clearly feels so good to children, they love it. It lights them up. You can tell they feel alive and in the moment and like really enjoying this life thing. And that's just so like interesting how all of a sudden that becomes like impractical and and like the way to like mess your life up or something. I'm using like quotation marks in case you're listening to the audio version, like like allowing yourself to have that much joy and expressing yourself and creatively express yourself, and and having fun, like somehow again in quotation marks that becomes like impractical and like again in quotation marks like dangerous thing to do. And yet by observation, like it really seems like that's where the joy is. How does that land for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it goes back to what I was saying. It's like unlearning all of these things to then just go back to what we knew as kids. It's like they actually know it all. As a kid, I knew what lit me up. I had written down like, oh, I want to be a singer when I grow up. I want to, do this when I grow up. And somewhere along the lines, it became impractical, quote, quote, impractical or get real. And yeah, it's that just reminds me of, it's like when I'm in that channel, whether it's facilitating in ceremony or working with client or doing like a sound healing event, it's not about the performance, you know that's and that reminds me of like being a kid. It's when kids are just like really in their flow, they're not really thinking about, oh, what is this person thinking about me, or I need to be validated in how good this sounds, or whatever it is, and it's like I if I wanted to be, a famous pop star or whatever, like this is not what I would be doing. It's about, you know, being in my full raw expression for healing purposes. and to basically get out of my own way, getting out of my own way so spirit can flow. So spirit can flow. And yeah, again, to support and to show others what is possible when they're in their authentic expression, and to just release and allow their raw expression to come through in whatever way it sounds, because it doesn't matter what it sounds like. It's all beautiful. Like who decided what sounds good, what sounds bad? Because we're all so, again, uniquely made up so differently, and we have different sounds and shapes and expressions that want to be expressed, and they're all beautiful, because we all are essentially one.
Yeah. Yes, we are all one. And yeah, as you were saying that, something that came up for me is, well, yeah, it's all this training and conditioning that we go through. Like we're all taught in different ways because we're all in these unique circumstances as we grow up. But a lot of us are taught, like, this sounds good, that sounds bad, and this is what a, again, quote, good voice sounds like, and this is what a, quote, awful voice sounds like. And so there's all of this outside, I mean, it seems to me there's a lot of outside conditioning just telling us, this is what you should like, and this is what sounds good. And it's going to be different for every set of ears, for every, brain, for every body in terms of what resonates and what doesn't. But yeah, I mean, just, there's even like all these TV shows that, just, they get on there like, this is a good voice and that's a bad voice. And so it's just,
Mm-hmm.
all these outside perspectives that, and when I look at that, I'm like, oh, like, am I approaching new circumstances, new situations? So for instance, being the presence of someone singing and I've never heard them sing before, am I really in the moment, like witnessing it for myself and really feeling in my body like how I feel about it? Or am I bringing all these perspectives to the table of, like, what a voice should sound like in quotation marks that I heard from all these other, opinions throughout my life? So that was kind of coming up, that, like, yeah, we really witnessing it in the moment and in a pure way, or are we bringing all of our conditioning to the table? And then with the expression, I just want to know how you feel about this. So in terms of the expression, just for expressing, like, how about for the pure joy of it, like for the pure joy and passion? Because it just, like you said, it just feels good to let that divine energy or spirit energy like move through and express, because of just how it feels in the moment. Like, do you feel like that's a reward in and of itself?
Oh, completely. That's the whole thing.
Yeah.
Completely. I mean, you think about how much we're holding on to constantly, how much our bodies store all the trauma, all the tension just in our everyday lives. No matter what, you can't really escape the world that we live in. To some degree, you're gonna have some stuff in the body that you're holding on to, and to allow yourself to just, it's like when you take like a big deep breath and you sigh it out, like instantly it's like a release, and you feel that just sense of calmness. But when you allow yourself to be, in your channel of your voice, and to just go for it, for just that, the freedom to be in your like childlike joy, you feel instantly better. No, you move a lot of energy that way. In a way, that's you're purging some stuff, by tapping into your vocal expression. You're letting it out into the world.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, like, and so this is a big part of what I've been really, I feel I'm embodying more than ever on my journey. Because when you start to get into the like the law of attraction and quantum mechanics and things like that, and just how energy works in the field, and that we are attractors. We're, our bodies and our field is a magnet. And a statement that I feel really aligned with is, our life can be as good as we allow ourselves to feel. And the more we move in the direction, which I feel your journey that you've already shared speaks a lot to, like the more that we move in the direction of feeling good, it's that feeling good place that attracts, and this is what the law of attraction is in its raw essence, is like attracts like. And it's just how the universe, the physical universe, organizes itself. That, you've probably heard it many different ways. Whoever is listening, you may have heard it many different ways that, yeah, just like things attract themselves to other like things based on their frequency, their vibration. And so as we allow ourselves to feel better and better and better more of the time, we just attract, relationships, situations, circumstances, opportunities that match that place of feeling really good. So it's like, and again, I feel you already spoke to this in terms of the relationships. Like the relationships that you have in your life now are ones that to me, it sounds like that you've called in and that feel like a match for you, which is very different than what you were willing to participate in before. And not that there was anything wrong with that. It's just that some relationships felt one way and they had, they led to certain experiences. And it sounds like you learned from that. And now you're very clear. It's like what I am summoning to me are relationships that feel a lot like the relationship that I'm having with myself, which is a more loving one, a more compassionate one, a more empowered one. And so like as we just again like follow what feels better, just in terms of again like, and when I say feel better, I'm just talking about like it feels healthy, holistic, natural and good for us, again, in a very healthy way. And also, of course, if we're following that kind of feeling the direction, it is going to benefit those around us, because as we are better to ourselves and we feel good, that just shows up in our relationships. That shows up as we even go to a coffee shop. It's just we take that energy and we take that vibration that we've created for ourselves everywhere we go. And so it does benefit others, because just that's what we are. We radiate out. And so, yeah, so how do you, for your own life, do you see that pattern? Like the better that you allow yourself to feel, it's like the things around you tend to match the frequency that you're creating for yourself. Do you feel that to be true in your experience?
Yeah, definitely. And this one has been, yeah, it's deep. Our relations are so deep, if not the deepest, and our biggest catalyst in my journey personally for growth. Gone through a lot of transformation when it's come to relations, and kind of the weaving of people coming in and out of my life, which has been sometimes painful. But with that being said, I remember when I was first starting my spiritual journey and had really just begun to go into the depths of that, and was shifting so much in my life. I remember just not feeling like I had the support in my life. I didn't have the, soul family in my life who understood me or was there to support me in the depths that I was moving through, or the depths of who I really am and who I was at the time. I didn't feel like I had the support. And I remember praying for that. And yeah, to your point, it's like the more I've continued to follow the breadcrumbs, like, okay, this is what I need to do, even though there's so much uncertainty. It's like this constant, I have to cultivate so much trust. It's like so much trust because there's so much uncertainty, even though you feel this calling of like, oh, I need to go here, I need to do this, or whatever it is you're feeling pulled to. It's like, wait, really? Do I really need to do that though? Because I feel kind of comfortable over here, It's like making those decisions you're rewarded. You're rewarded for making those decisions. And sometimes the reward can be really also challenging at the same time, in just like the transformation, of okay, this is what you've asked for and you're doing it. And so I'm going to remove certain things in your life that are not in alignment, certain relations that are not in alignment. And it's okay also at the same time to grieve those relations, to also grieve who we were in those dynamics, and also know that that was the season in our lives for those people, and we are making room for more aligned relations.
Mm. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that you said that yeah, the letting go of whatever it is, relationships, circumstances might not always feel easy in the moment because it's like what we know. Yet when we're following that inner guidance, whether you want to call it like intuition or your, like the still silent voice of your heart, like whatever it is that's really leading you, when you're hearing that, when you're attuning to that, like, yeah, you may let different situations, circumstances, relationships go, and it might not feel easy in the moment. And I just love that you said, but what you're doing is you're opening up space for, again, what you've asked for, is whatever it is, relationships, circumstances, opportunities that feel more aligned, and therefore I would imagine feel better. So yeah, might not be easy at first, but you are creating that space. And to me, yeah, it's like the space is the invitation, the space is like, okay, I'm ready for what I asked for.
Exactly. And there's always a reward. I will say in my experiences, there's always a reward in that, even if it feels really crunchy and challenging. And you're like, what the F? Like, I know I asked for this, but I didn't want it to go this, like this. I didn't ask for this. So like, yeah, that's the work, and that's, yeah, the universe making way for what we asked for to come into our lives, more ease and flow.
Mm. And I've heard you just mention a few times now just the uncertainty, uh, which I get that the uncertainty, which I feel just based on a lot of, again, our conditioning and the way we were taught to look at the world, like the uncertainty can feel very, it can like have some nerves about it, if you will, in the beginning. But it sounds like to me, like when you've really felt like your heart's calling to lean into the uncertainty, to me it sounds like it keeps being worth it. That's the impression that I'm getting.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel like I'm at a point where I'm having fun. I'm having fun in the uncertainty and the mystery, with co-creating with life.
Mm.
So that's been a huge shift. Instead of just being in a place of fear, rewiring that belief of being fearful in the unknown and the mystery and the future, to then asking ourselves, how can we co-create with the universe? What do I really want in my life? What am I calling in? How much fun can I have actually calling these things in?
Yeah, it is to me like, first of all, an empowering place to be, and then also, yeah, equally fun, because again, it's like it's the mystery that makes it fun. I've actually channeled on that before, that it was a question that came up once asking, it was asking this of someone else, like, if you knew what was behind every corner in your life, do you think you'd be bored, or do you think you'd be like intrigued and like curious and excited, or you'd be like really interested, and which do you think it would be? And of course the answer was, well, if I knew what was around every corner, I would be bored.
Yeah, it's funny. I had a friend asked me, okay, what do you really want in your life? Like what are my dreams? What am I calling in? And we were going through just what our dreams were, our future dreams, and what we desire. And he's like, well, what is standing in the way of that? Like, what if that came to you tomorrow? And I said, I think I would actually be kind of sad if that all just happened tomorrow, because I would have missed the journey of getting there and like missed my life. And I don't want to be, my grandma used to say this to my dad, and my dad says this to me, like, don't wish your life away. Don't wish your life away. And it's helpful to come back into the present moment and to be almost this attitude of gratitude with where we're at, even if it's not maybe where we want to be. Of like, okay, I'm on the journey of getting there, and it's humbling and beautiful.
Hmm. Yeah, what I love about that is just, to me, the way I have chosen to view it is like knowing that the dreams are possible. Like there's a reason we have the dreams, and knowing that there's a reason they feel so juicy and amazing, and just knowing that they will be so satisfying, as they, whenever they manifest into our lives. And yeah, it's like, can we allow ourselves to enjoy all the steps along the way, like to really enjoy the unfolding, because it's like the unfolding is like we see like the starts, the brick wall, if you will. And this is a good brick wall, like not one that keeps you out of something, but like just watching this masterpiece or this painting come together, like brick by brick or like paint stroke by paint stroke. It's like the more we see like things start to move in a certain direction, we're like, oh wow, like it really is unfolding. Like I'm seeing the foundations, I'm seeing the pieces come together, which to me, if we allow it, can just create that much more excitement and enthusiasm, because we kind of like feel that we really are moving closer to that, which feels very exciting. And yeah, just enjoying, I know it's just something that's said all the time, but to me, it's much more rich and bodied than it is just said in theory. And it really is just like enjoy the unfolding, enjoy the journey, enjoy all the, the magical relationships and opportunities and interesting like curves of the path along the way, because like I mean it's always, there's really, obviously there's really what feel like grand moments on the journey, and that's still a part of the journey. Like it's always the journey. So yeah, it's like that eternal question, like can we really align with the journey and like let it be fun along the way?
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, we are our own worst enemies. I say that just within myself, of like, oh, I can notice like when the ego comes in and is challenging me, like, okay, you should be X, Y, and Z, or you're not good enough, or whatever. There's still that voice that's there sometimes, no matter how much work I've done, like that still creeps in from time to time. And instead of just letting it like take over, I can witness it and kind of laugh at it. Okay, whew, I see you, thank you. And we're not gonna let you just completely take over. We're here, we're now, we're safe, we're alive, we're doing the things that we need to do to take care of ourselves, and helps me to come back into the present moment.
Yeah, yeah, just yeah, self-compassion continues to be one of the biggest tools in my metaphysical toolbox, if you will. Self-compassion and yeah, self-kindness, and yeah, just yeah, never gets old, always just as effective. uh so well, in this one I'm actually curious, thank you so much for just sharing like all these aspects and details of your journey. I'm a little bit curious. So I see that one of the ways you describe yourself is a sound and vocal alchemist. And so if you're open just to sharing more about what that means to you, and I believe, you show up in this way for others, as a sound and vocal alchemist. So just if you're open to sharing what that means to you, and then what it looks like for you to show up for someone else with the sound and vocal alchemy, and maybe what you see that um, help create in other people's lives.
Yeah, so with the sound and vocal alchemy, I believe this is such a beautiful healing modality, again, of empowerment. Um, when we're actually developing in the mother's womb, our throats and our wombs are connected. So it's real, and we continue to grow and they become further apart, but it's really fascinating. Just this channel of, our sacral and our throats, how connected it all is. It's like our creative expression and our sacral being birthed, but then utilizing our voice to allow that birth to come into the tangible, like bringing a voice to the creative expression. So within like the sound and vocal alchemy, it's like going back to these, again, like very ancient and just human ways of living for healing purposes, to create more harmonium in our lives, to create homeostasis and empowerment. So when I'm working with other individuals, I find so much there's this common thread, especially with women, of the suppression of our voices and feeling like we're, not good enough to express whatever the story is. Like, I've seen it so much. And so I work with them with in different ways and exercises, going through the different chakra systems, going through like the feminine cycle and the connection to Mother Earth and the sound, the universal sounds and the voice, and how that is all connected. Like, we are all that. And so utilizing all these different modalities to create this alchemy within ourselves, that is unique to every single person and every single person's coding. So within working with other individuals, it's really like going into what that means to them and their connection with their voice, within, the way they grew up and their stories and their connection to the earth, and all of these different kind of things that, again, create this like alchemy.
Hmm. And do you feel that in working with people and their voices, and like you said, and going through the chakra system, do you feel that that is benefiting some of the things that you've already talked about, where people are, I mean, this is just what I would imagine, and again, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but just based on what I'm kind of getting from this, I would imagine that when someone starts to feel more free in their voice and their expression, that there's a lot more likelihood that they are willing to be their authentic selves and allow themselves to be seen being their authentic selves, not because one thing I've seen, and I feel like this kind of falls under the realm of what's often referred to as inner child work, is that it's like, if you ask me, like these these inner dimensions that we often refer to as inner children, like they're very smart, like they're very observant, and they go throughout life, and of course they want to feel safe. And so by going through different circumstances, they, if you ask me, I mean, my inner child definitely found all these strategies to play it safe, to stay safe, and a lot of those strategies involved not being myself, tapering off a lot of my unique expression. because it wasn't safe, or I'd be judged, or I'd be condemned, or I'd lose love. And so like I had all these strategies to like, like keep it under control, keep myself safe, and therefore not be my authentic self, which definitely deprived me in a lot of ways, from, like you said, allowing that my channel, my human channel to express and to allow the divine spirit to move through in many joyous ways. Like I shut that off. So I definitely felt the impacts of that. But then also it's like it also deprives other people of it too. Like our joy is contagious, like our happy, go lucky, if you want to call it, like just, loving life, like feeling the zest of life, like others feel that, and I've heard it so many times, like that energy is contagious. So tapering off the authentic self, it deprives us of a lot of really feel good vibrations, of you will, but it also deprives others of it too, because we're not willing to share it. We're not willing to allow it to be expressed. So I would imagine that it would help people feel more permission within themselves to really start maybe loving that authentic self more, accepting, and then expressing. So I feel like love and acceptance tend to come first, and then that permission to express really happens. But also, like, and again, you've already talked about this, but also just show up differently in their life, with their voice and what they're willing to or not willing to tolerate in relationships. And that's another one that came up for me. And then, yeah, I think those are the big ones, just becoming more of, the authentic self, and feeling, yeah, just like use your voice, like, tell people what's okay, tell people what you're genuinely interested in or not interested in, and, like use your voice if you need to move on from something. Like, do you find that these types of things maybe become easier when people do this kind of work?
Oh, definitely. I've seen such a transformation within myself and within other individuals completely, of just seeing where they started and this timidness of, okay, is this safe to be here? Am I allowed to take up space, to then see the progression and the transformation of them just fully taking up space and being free to express themselves, and again being in like the joy of that, not coming from a place of like, oh, I have something to prove, but just really finding that authentic expression within them and allowing themselves to be in the joy of that and to be witnessed in that by others.
Yeah, I mean, being witnessed, if you ask me, is a gift as well. Like in the expression, yeah, the main point, in my what's the word I want? In my assessment, the main point is to like first feel within ourselves the joy of expression and sharing and creativity. But then, yeah, also to be witnessed in that is a gift as well. It's like bonus, to be witnessed, to be received. And whether, I mean, the appreciation may happen, it may not happen, but just to be purely received and witnessed, in expression, to me, that is very much a bonus and also a gift in and of itself. And to really like to be witnessed, it takes that first step, to find the permission to express, to find the permission to be seen, which is kind of cool that we're right here in this moment, because that was another point I wanted to touch on, is just the aspect of being willing to be seen. And I know this most likely shows up for every human being in one way or the other. And I do feel that people that listen to this podcast most likely resonate with some kind of term, whether it's like light worker or spiritual awakening, or, a path of greater consciousness, something along those lines. And I definitely, and trust me, I've had my own journey with this. And again, still unwrapping layers and in real time in my life. But I definitely feel in this community, there is a lot that comes up around being seen, the willingness to be seen. And I feel like a lot of the insecurities that I'm aware of are, a fear of being judged, because a lot of us are discovering natural abilities that, like, I know for me, like a lot of those, I'm like, holy cow, like I had no idea this was possible in my human experience. Like, it's so cool. And I know it is me opening up and allowing the divine to move through in more expressive, and also they feel like more powerful ways. So things like light language, and even for me, the gift of verbal channeling, which came online for me, and then I really decided to lean into and hone. Like, I mean, in these communities, they're very understood and typically very appreciated. But then outside of these communities, it's kind of like the rest of the world picture comes in. That's where I feel like a lot of these insecurities and fears can be like, will other people understand me? Like, are they gonna reject, those, some of these kind of like deep sit, like, will they reject me? Like, will they say like what I'm doing isn't real, like, or is it like, is it just like just out of the box wacky, just like where the heck did they come up? So it's like these insecurities start to come up. I know I've definitely faced a lot of them, and again, it's like this human journey continues to evolve, and more keeps to open up. So I do find with even more, um, I guess, abilities, gifts that I'm aware of in my experience, it's like, yeah, there's new layers of like, okay, now can I let myself be seen this way? Of course, not pushing myself in a way that feels uncomfortable, but there's just certain moments like where I know, like, okay, like I feel like I'm ready to be seen on this level. Like, am I really willing to give myself that permission? So anything that you'd like to add on this, yeah, this area of discussion? And do you also find, I guess, in this type of work that you do, that people find a greater willingness to be seen? Is that something you also find?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. And I definitely resonate. Yeah, it's been such a journey of coming home to these gifts and coming home to my truth, and then allowing myself to be seen in them. And there's definitely been a lot of fear in that, of, okay, will I be rejected? Will I be abandoned? And then the ego finding ways in which that's happened as a kid, and all of that. But then coming back to, okay, well, we're in a different place now, like we're not that little child anymore. Yes, she's still there, and I can love her so deeply and acknowledge her so deeply. But yeah, we're here now, and um, yeah, I feel the more I've allowed myself to be seen, in my truth, in my authentic expression, that's when the good juicy stuff happens. Like that's when the right people come in. That's when, like, you're just in alignment. You allow like that flow. It's like the universal flow, the ease to come into your life, even though there may be some resistance initially, to allow yourself to be seen. The more I've allowed myself and gone forth in that, I've just cultivated so much beauty, which then has created more ease in allowing myself to be seen. And also, it's like, okay, it becomes a cycle. If you have these messages to share, you have these gifts to put out into the world, these like gifts that are going to make an impact on the world, and you just harness them within yourself, you're not doing a service to anyone. You're just creating probably a lot more resistance and a lot more pain for yourself, because I mean, I did this. I knew like the truth of who I was, yet I would go into other situations where I'm like, okay, well, I just need to like go like get a normal job, or go do this, or play around with this, knowing it was not right for me. But that would maybe create more like acceptance within my family or whatever it was. I ended up back at the same place. It's like it becomes kind of a loop. It's like you're probably going to end up where you started, and you've just created a lot more chaos and a lot more steps when you could have just no shame, but it's like allowing yourself to be seen and going forth with that
Mm.
creates a lot more ease in the long run.
Yeah, I mean, it's we're all on our unique journey, and if anyone decides to go back to the familiar and see if the same thing unfolds, and it kind of does, well, it's like, it's just a part of the journey. Like, okay, well, okay, now I get it. Now this leads me back to kind of what maybe I just feel like, doesn't light me up, or, doesn't feel satisfying. It's like, okay, just further confirmation, if you will. And further confirmation of like, okay, I'm clear, I'm being asked within myself, as the sovereign creator of my life, to like to be more in my gifts, and to share my gifts. And so it all just leads back to more inner clarity, if you ask me, no matter which way we go, or how long we take. One thing I love that you said, though, is that I feel that you said something along the lines where, I mean, again, it's circling back to the point that, yeah, when we don't express, when we don't share, when we don't let ourselves be visible, is depriving ourselves of that joy, and, that passion and that zest for life. And other people aren't able to experience it because, again, we're holding it back. And you can tell me if this is true in your experience, but like, as I've, even though these gifts, I'll call them like long forgotten, because, they've showed up on the planet many times before, like all these amazing divine abilities that express themselves in a human form. They've definitely expressed on the planet many times before. And maybe in Western culture, a lot of them have been forgotten. And now they're starting to be remembered and come back online, and people are stepping more into them, and finding the permission to express and to be seen. And in my experience of that, it's like when I really have, maybe there was some insecurity at first, but when I really have stepped in and expressed, it's like, again, the main gift is like the joy and the free flow of the spirit of the divine. But then also it's like what comes back to me, like I'll use channeling, like the channeled sessions I've had, like what comes on the other side of me expressing that gift, like so much gratitude, and seeing how people just tell me like I feel so much better. Like sometimes in as little as like 22 minutes, people are like, whoa, the clarity that I now feel in my life. And there's other things, like sometimes I make these reels on social media where I'm dancing and expressing myself through like movement and dance. And like people will just tell me like, thank you so much. Like you literally like lit up my whole day with that video. It's like, as I've allowed myself to, whether they fall under the category of metaphysical, if you will, or they are something that's more used to being seen, like the dance, like the singing, like comedy or something. It's like expressing those two, like as I open up and share and allow and express and let myself be seen, the bonus is what comes back to me. It's like the gratitude, the appreciation, the connection, the love. It's like it continues to be worth it. Like it continues to be worth it. And then of course, I find like the next level. I'm like, okay, I let myself be seen that much. And wow, it's like people enjoy it. It feels good for me to share, and people enjoy it, and people really get something from it, and they're telling me it's a gift. So then it brings me to another level of like, okay, can I open up and share more? Like, what else have I been holding back that wants to come out and be expressed? And it's like every level, it's like a win-win. It's like more joy coming in and through me and my vessel, and then other people keep telling me like more joy. um Sometimes it's more clarity, sometimes it's just better understanding, but like it's just like a win-win, like a full circle win-win. And I just remember as you were just sharing, like you had said something on that note. And so to me, it's like I continue to find it to be like really worth it. And there may be like, some insecurities here and there that I'm still navigating, but it's like on the other side, there's just so much goodness. Um, how do you feel? Do you feel like it's worth it?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, the most. And yeah, you realize that you're just this vessel. You're just this vessel, the channel, like the vessel for for the channel to come through. And like, of course you get to be in your own joy and your expression and your gifts and all of those things and being seen in that. But like, it really isn't about you. You're just like the vessel bringing this into the 3D worlds. And you realize it's not about you. And when you can like get out of that mindset, you know, and you're stuck in those loops of like, oh my gosh, I'm so afraid to be seen. I'm just like, what, like, I'm gonna be rejected in this is too woo, this is too crazy, whatever it is, you know. Like, when you can get out of that and you just do it, and then you realize, oh wow, like this is actually making an impact, like, and you like receive those reflections and you witness the breakthroughs that these people are having, that you're working with. It's like, oh, okay, I like, you know, I need to get out of my own way, because to a certain degree, it's like I'm being selfish by just like creating this whole thing in my mind of like why I can't be seen and why it's going to be too scary and X, Y, and Z, you know. It's like, just get out of your way. Like, easier said than done, but it's a practice.
Yeah, it's
And
a
it's,
practice. And oh, go
yeah,
ahead.
it's really beautiful, obviously, to yeah, just witness the healing that takes place within and other individuals. And yeah, again, to circle back, it's so important to have just other individuals in our lives to be received by and our gifts. And there's so much healing in that, you know, especially within like the fear of being seen, the fear of whatever it is, being abandoned, X, Y, and Z, from growing up, to then have other individuals just witnessing us and not even validating, just witnessing us and standing there and being there and not abandoning and loving us through it. It's so healing and so worth it.
Good. Well, I'm glad that you feel that it's worth it. And you just reminded me of something that I feel that is also so potent and powerful. And it's that just because I find this to be true as well. I find that there's been so many moments where I just haven't seen myself through the purest lens, you know, like really being able to see myself and, you know, like, and what it is that I can bring to the table in life, what I can offer, what I can share. And I find it to be really helpful because the reason I feel that I have not always seen myself in the purest light is because, again, a lot of that conditioning that caused me to feel insecure in a lot of ways and doubt myself and feel like, you know, my gifts aren't that special. Like, you know, I've had those moments in the past, and to me it is just a lot of like the social conditioning that I just unknowingly bought into. And you know, so much of that has been worked through again as I express more. There's, you know, like these, you know, smaller insecurities that pop up that I get to, you know, process and you know, and navigate through. But it's gotten easier and easier. And but one thing's been so helpful for me is just to have, like you said, like really consciously chosen people that can just, because they see, you know, me, I feel like, you know, these people that really love us and care for us in a very like conscious way, you know, like not these hidden agendas, but like a very conscious, loving way. They see us without the insecurities, you know, like they look at us in a different way, like without the insecurities, without maybe like self-judgment that we're holding on to. And sometimes those reflections can be so powerful when they're kind of like reflect back, like, are you kidding me? Like, your gift is so amazing. Like, and they tell us, like, you know, I hope you know how much your gift brings to the table and like what a difference it makes, like what a difference it's made for me. Like getting those reflections, I feel has helped me in many different moments get back to that, like that more pure way of seeing myself and being like, oh, like my gifts do matter. It's just like I started believing something else. Have you had those moments where like just like there's people in your life that really just reflect back to such a pure way of seeing you and help you remember like, like, oh my gosh, yeah, what I can allow myself to bring to the table, like it's important and it matters and it makes a difference. Like, Have you had some of those moments? Have those moments been helpful for you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. There's been, yeah, so many moments just like that where, again, it's really helped me to get out of my own way. And I'm like, whoa, when I'm just showing up in my authenticity and allowing myself to be again seen in that, and to have someone there and giving me these reflections of so much love, and to really be seen by someone, like really be seen, not just for the bright shiny pieces, but it's like to really be seen and acknowledged, witnessed by someone. It's been probably the most healing thing for me, especially like just growing up and not having a mom who could emotionally like be there for me. And I was always considered to be like too sensitive, too emotional. Why are you crying so much? Or just kind of like shamed for my feelings just not being met. It was really challenging for me to allow myself to then be authentic in the way that I express myself, and to allow myself to even like cry and to have emotions and to be held by others. And so that's this journey, and again, like working consciously with like the plant teachers has really like opened me up to allow myself to feel and to be witnessed by others, and to have my emotions be like loved, like, oh, you are actually so loved, and your deep sensitivity, your depth of emotion, like that is your gift.
Wow. Wow. Well, I'm so happy to hear that yeah, just the feeling how loved you are and recognizing that, yeah, your capacity to feel like is a gift as well. Yeah, I think that's so beautiful, and I'm glad to hear that you've had those realizations. Because yeah, I've had them in my own way, and for anyone else who's, if you're ever doubting how much you are loved by all of existence, the dang thing, all of it, what's behind all of it. Uh, and if you ever doubt, like, your ability to feel is actually like a beautiful gift, like, yeah, I've also found that yes, I'm so loved beyond anything I could actually still like fully understand. Like I can feel it, but it's like, I can feel how deeply I'm loved, but it's like the understanding is still kind of like a mystery in some ways. And then also, yeah, just like my ability to feel, it's like it's yeah, it's just it's everything. It's everything, because I was once told that I think I've said this on the podcast a few times, but it just speaks to how we're designed to feel our way through lives. Like that's actually like the how we're designed, and the phrase is feeling is seeing and seeing is knowing. So to like really navigate life, to be able to see your way through life, if you will, you got to be able to feel. And like through the feeling, which is like the seeing, then you get to a place of knowing, because you've allowed yourself to like feel and navigate through life. So yeah, the depth that we can feel, to me, is like so important. So thank you for speaking to that. And I just wanted to, yeah, just ask you a question. I don't think I've asked this too much on the podcast at this point. Maybe it might be the first time I'm actually asking it, but yeah, I'm just curious, what is the and I know sometimes this changes over time, but right now, what's the impact that you feel most excited about having in the world? Like, what just lights you up in terms of the contributions that you feel excited about?
I have such a such a passion to really return to return to the sacred ways of living, to return to the ancient ways of living, and that goes into connecting with land, like really connecting with Gaia, like putting our hands in the dirt and giving back in that way. So getting involved with a lot of different like permaculture opportunities and local farming, I believe is so important. And also just intentionally working with the different elements and working to preserve these ancient indigenous ways, I believe is also just so, so, so important. And I feel like it is a big part of my just mission here on Earth in this lifetime to share and to learn and support and keep these traditions alive.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, it's like to me it really is a paradise, and yeah, just so much. I mean, I can even sense in my own life like the untapped like beauty and richness and connection. Just I've had recent months, I've just had the most profound experiences with wildlife in a way I'd never had before. And I mean, just like catching me by surprise in like the best possible way, and just feeling this. It's been allowing myself into a space of oneness, like just being out in nature. Sometimes I'm just out in nature listening to music, and I find myself in such a state of oneness that like these magical wildlife experiences come into my life, and I think I've said it this way before with someone else, that these moments feel almost like a stork is like delivering like a newborn to you. It's just like they're so pure, and they're so like oh my gosh, like I didn't even know that I could have such a connection with wildlife. And in that state of oneness where it's like just that level of connection, like I don't think I could even find the words right now, but it's like it feels like fairy tale magical. I'll just say that. It feels like fairy tale magical. I'm like, I didn't know like I could connect in this way. And so yeah, just the untapped potential in my life. Like I know there's so much more, and I feel that's true for anyone who wants to connect with Earth and all of its life in various ways. So I didn't know that. I didn't know that was such a at the forefront of your, like your passion for your life experience. So that's really cool to know. So thank you for sharing that. And then
Yeah.
well, actually, before I was just going to invite you to like, share how people can connect with you beyond this episode, but I felt like maybe you wanted to say something to what I just said, so feel free if you did want to.
Yeah, well, again, thank you for asking that question, and I love that you brought in the element of music in nature as well, because I felt it's important to, yeah, just bring the element of music back into obviously what I'm just super passionate about and excited to keep birthing into this world of, I forgot who said this quote, but it's like when we can't find the words to express, if music helps us to express. And I'm finding and so just enamored by the way that music can take us out of our states of pain and take us out of our states of sorrow and sadness, or help us to express that. It's like, again, it's like in order to heal we have to feel, and music provokes these deep layers of emotion just by hearing certain strings on the guitar, certain chords. It's like it can create this like deep opening of emotion that we didn't even know that was deeply held within our beings to then allow ourselves to express. So yeah, I believe like within that, again, it's like, we are created by sound, like the universal sound. And so it's like all of these different elements, yeah, are just so important. It's like connecting back with the land, and we are Earth. We are Earth. We are like wildlife. You know, we really are that. You take away all the stuff, and we're animals. Like,
Yeah, I'm just laughing because it's like I've had these moments recently where, because I take a lot of nature walks and just whatever skin is visible, even if it's just like my arm, like I just kind of like I'll just like glance at my arm and then I'll like glance at the forest and I'm just like, yeah, it's the same thing. It's like, raw organic material that's, organized itself into different life forms, but it's all like, it's all the same minerals, it's all the same like organic compounds. And, I just like, I'm like, my skin, my arm, nature, it's, one and the same. And
totally. Like we have tiny rivers all going through our body with our veins, and it's just
yeah,
we're so entwined
yeah,
with the earth. We really are.
yeah, yeah. But there's so much opportunity, just yeah, for nature connection. And I'm just getting this like intuitive hit in the moment. Like, are you are you open to me just sharing like an intuitive hit in this moment?
I would love it. Yes,
Yeah.
go for
I'm
it.
just feeling a lot of like, juice and like energy just around this subject. I know you've already spoken to like, like the farming and whatnot, but I just feel like there's so much energy in your field is what I'm sensing, just about like this deeper connection with nature, and just all that can open up there. So like, I mean, you're probably already talking about it, but just like something is really standing out to me that like there's a lot of magic there. Like again, anything I offer ever, and in this in these kind of conversations, I always offer on like a take it or leave it basis because like it's up to you whether it resonates or not because you're your own sovereign being. But I just feel like a lot of magic. What I'm feeling a lot of magic for you, and just yeah, just opening up to that natural connection and just all that's possible there. Uh, I feel again, this is just a feeling I'm getting. It's just I feel like a lot of people would be interesting in like tuning in and like almost following your lead in a sense into just really re-emerging into the natural connection and all that can be found there. Just yeah, I'm just getting like another chill, like a chill in my cranium right now. It's just like I feel like there's a lot of magic there for you. So again, it's up to you what you want to, how you want to receive that. But I'm getting like, ooh, like that's like a sweet spot. There's a lot of magic there. So I just wanted to pass that along.
Mm, thank you. I appreciate that. And yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that. I just came out with my most recent offering, which is a one-on-one private mentorship called Return to the Sacred, where we do go into our deep connection with Mother Earth, working intentionally with the elements, air, water, fire, earth, different holistic healing modalities, and going into some of these herbs that are going to be supportive to each individual. So really, really working with Mama Gaia in these ways. And then the element of the vocal and sound alchemy to open up our channels of expressionism. So yeah, that's my baby right now, and I'm so excited that it's being birthed and has been birthed really recently.
Wow. Oh, I'm so happy to say the name one more time just for the listeners' sake. Just say it one more time with the name of the program.
Return to the sacred.
Okay, perfect. Well, that's amazing. And because yeah, that's what I wanted to give you the opportunity to speak to. Like, so yeah, people have been listening to this. Maybe they just feel like a resonance with your journey or just your energy, your vibe, if you will. What would be the best way for people to connect with you if they want to beyond this podcast episode? Is like website, email, social media, just whatever you want to speak to.
Yeah, definitely. You can connect with me on social media. My handle is Madison Moon Miller. You can send me a direct message there, and there's also a link to my email. So if you wanted to send me an email through there, I check that frequently. So yeah, that's probably the best way to get in contact.
Okay, perfect. Well, I'll make sure that your most relevant social media handles and your email, if you would like it, will be in the show notes. Like we can definitely arrange that if you want those to be in the show notes, just to make it for easy to people to find you. So there's that. And then yeah, just any like final sentiments, like anything, like a final note just about like your journey, and maybe to anyone else who maybe just feels like they know themselves to be on the journey and they just know there's so much more and they want to open up to more, just like any kind of closing sentiment you might like to leave with the listeners or the viewers, whatever way they decide to take this conversation in.
Yeah, there's so much, but yeah, I feel it's so important to deeply acknowledge yourself with where you're at. Deeply acknowledge yourself, and you're already doing the things. You know, you're already doing it. We just get to amplify. We just get to amplify the things that we're already doing, and to have fun in the process. And the breakdown, or the breakthrough, comes after the breakdown every single time. So if you're going through a period of transformation that's feeling really crunchy or feeling really challenging, just know that you're on the brink of a breakthrough, and to keep going.
Well, thank you for that. Thank you for that. Yeah, I've said that. I've said that in previous iterations where in life where it felt like at the time I was going through a breakthrough. Like I would say that to myself, I'd be like, well, the breakthrough always comes on the other side of the breakdown. So so there is that. So yeah, thank you for your words of encouragement, and thanks for just your willingness to have this conversation and just to share the details of your journey, and just what your passion is at the moment, like how you're contributing and assisting on earth this time. Just thank you for all of it. It's been such a privilege and an honor to have you here, and I'm just so excited to watch everything that's already unfolding for you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. And I'm again so grateful for our blooming friendship. And I've got so much love for you, brother.
Oh, well, so much love for you as well.